Hey everyone, welcome to A Game for Your Thoughts. Today we're going to be talking about Red Dead Redemption. So Red Dead Redemption is actually one of my favorite games, one of my most favorite games of all time, and it is a very well-renowned classic. It was made by Rockstar and published by Rockstar, and it came out about 10 years ago on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, and is really well known and has gone down as a classic of gaming. So with this game being set in the Wild West and being made by Rockstar, people like to coin it as the Wild West GTA, which sometimes that's true. But the thing that this game does far better than any other Grand Theft Auto game is the story it tells. So the story of Red Dead Redemption follows former outlaw turned farmer John Marston, and his family gets kidnapped by the government, and he's forced to track down his former gang members and bring them to justice. And that's the story. And it is a very amazing Wild West story. If you love Wild Western movies, books, anything like that, you're going to love this game because the story it tells is just so phenomenal. And I'm going to dive deep into that. So I'm gonna kind of keep my thoughts basic here because I'm gonna do like a huge spoiler video of like the whole Red Dead Redemption series covering Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2. So for the most part, my thoughts here will be pretty basic, but I'm gonna give you the best rundown I can. So the story itself, like I said, it follows John Marston as he's traveling across the West to track down his old gang members. And along the way, he meets all these fun characters and wacky adventures, and he just goes on a Wild West adventure, and it's so well done, and it's very real and organic. And the best thing about this story is John Marston himself. John Marston is such a well-written character. His character is just so like real and gritty and organic. From the beginning, he's kind of your basic like gruff cowboy. Like, I don't like anything gruff, rough, rough. But then as the story continues, you see that he's just far more. There's far more depth to his character. The more stories he tells and the way his adventure takes him, he just has so much growth and development, and he is just such an amazing character. But he's far from perfect. He's a very flawed character, and I love that about this character. And as the story progresses, you're going to get to grow to John Marston. You're going to love him and you're going to feel for him and you're going to be on his side the whole time. Even when he has to do some questionable things, you're like, oh, I don't know if I like that. But you can see that he's also feeling the same way too. And it just makes him feel so much more organic and real. And I love that about this game. It makes you love that character so much. One thing that this story does is it has very amazing writing. If you've played any other Rockstar game, you're going to know that the writing is very excelled. They do a very great job of telling a good story and also building up the time period. You look at Grand Theft Auto Vice City, that time period is just so fleshed out and you feel like you're in the 1980s Miami. And the same thing here goes for the Wild West feeling. You feel like you're in the Wild West. It is a very organic experience. Just the way that the characters interact, things they say, and just the way that the characters are so well done, and the writing is just phenomenal. And it clearly shows that a lot of passion and heart went into this game. And as you progress through this story, you're going to meet all these new fun characters. And like I said, a lot of them are really weird and obscure, but it totally pulls straight from the time period, from crooked tonic salesmen, from gravediggers to the government businessman and the retired outlaw. There's just so much variety of the characters, and each one is so well done. And you spend a lot of time with each of them, and you get to know them really well, and you get attached to them as you work with them to complete jobs or do different activities. And it all just flows and works really, really well. And the characters that are kind of really weird and wacky, you can see that John doesn't like them, and you kind of feel the same way too. You're like, you're really weird and obnoxious, and I don't like you. But John's the same way, and he actually says it, and you're like, thank you. You're saying exactly what I'm thinking. And I love that about this game, just the variety of the characters you meet and how like fleshed out they are, and you really get to know them and get attached to these really wacky and weird side characters. In addition to the introduction of John Marston being one of my favorite video game protagonists, we actually get my personal favorite video game villain of all time, and that's Dutch Van der Linde. I love Dutch Van der Linde. His character was so phenomenal, which is really weird because he only shows up in the last like quarter of the game, and his time is actually kind of small, but the way they build his character up with stories that John tells and other characters' interactions, and then once you finally get to meet Dutch Van der Linde, it's just the best thing ever. His character is phenomenal. I don't want to say too much because I'll save that for my big spoiler video where I'm going to just go like super into it. But just know that he is so well done, and I loved his interactions between John and Dutch because just you can see there's respect there and that they do have a past and that they still kind of, have that respect. And you can see that. And I thought that was so well done, and it was such a phenomenal character interaction between John and Dutch. I loved every single time they were on screen together, and it was just he's just my favorite. I love Dutch. He's the best. So if you've seen a lot of Western movies or played similar games, you're going to know that the Western setting kind of has a slower pace, and this shows in the story and the gameplay. So if you're like the more modern audience really likes the fast-paced game, and this game, like I said, has a very slow pace. So if that's a problem for you, that might be something you want to keep in mind. But for me, I love the Western setting. I love the Western feel. So this slower pace was super awesome for me. I loved how it just took some time to build the Western world and the characters that were there because it did so good at that anyways. So the slow pace is something to take note of, but yet again, didn't bother me personally because it was something I enjoyed and I felt actually elevated the story to the next level. So I've talked about this story for a long time because it was my favorite part of the game, but now let's talk about the gameplay. And this is where it draws a lot of similarities between Grand Theft Auto. Like I said, it's made by Rockstar, and a lot of their games play very similarly. And Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto are very similar in that vein. So it's a Wild West game. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna ride your horses around. You're gonna shoot guns and be an outlaw, or you can be a hero. Whatever you want to do. And that's what I really like about this gameplay, where I feel like it differs the most from Grand Theft Auto. In Grand Theft Auto, I always go out and just cause as much mayhem as possible, and there's really no repercussions from it. But in Red Dead Redemption, if you go out and cause mayhem, your honor meter, and that's what this game is all about, is you have this honor meter that fluctuates depending on your actions through story missions or outside of story missions. If you're going to be out there and be a total outlaw, murdering, killing, stealing, whatever you want, you're going to have low honor, and that's going to affect how characters interact with you, and some stores will even close their doors and won't sell stuff to you. I found that was really interesting because it kind of was like a punishment for being an outlaw. And so it was a cool dynamic of being like, do I want to be an outlaw or do I want to be a good guy where people are going to treat me nice and actually some of your crimes won't get reported? And just this honor system, it really ebbed and flowed with your choices, which I thought was really cool and unique. So with it being a Rockstar game, there is going to be lots of violence and some gritty, gnarly stuff. And this game does that. It does have some pretty gnarly violence, and it pulls from the Wild West theme. I mean, when you're having like shootouts, you're using revolvers or low-powered rifles. Nothing too crazy. And I liked this. It really helped just elevate this world that you were in, and just made you feel like the cowboy you are. And with the shooting, it was like the usual Grand Theft Auto style where you can pop in and out of cover and it auto locks to the nearest target. And I liked this. It was a little tight sometimes and it didn't do exactly what I wanted it to, but it worked. It made it easy for me to just pop out of cover, shoot off a couple shots, get back in cover, and reload. And so it worked really well. It had a good flow to it. And that's what I liked about the combat, is it just had a good flow. It was really fast paced, but also still kept kind of the Wild West slower pace. It was awesome. And these gunfights are elevated by the environments you're in. You're either in like a shanty old town that's run down in the middle of nowhere, or you're in like a mine shaft. And the best ones were even the ones on horseback. And I'm going to talk about the horseback riding here in a second, but just these environments that you were in really just elevated the experience as a whole because you felt like you were there. Yes, this game came out 10 years ago, so it wasn't like super realistic or anything, but it just did a great job of getting me invested in the fight and in the environments I was in. With it being the Wild West, your main source of transportation is horses, and riding horses is actually pretty enjoyable. It can be relaxing and also can be quite tedious depending on how you feel. I actually found it really relaxing and just nice and a great way to get around. But for a gamer who wants to just kind of get from one place to another really quickly, the horseback riding will be very tedious. But luckily, there's fast travel for that, and fast travel gets you from one place to another really quickly. And but then also you're gonna miss out on all the great scenery and the fun random events that happen while you are riding out on your horse. Riding the horses is very tricky because sometimes the stamina bar is just really small, and so just you like run really fast and you have to slow down to let the stamina bar recharge, and then you run really fast and have to slow down. So yes, it can be very tedious, but as an overall experience, it's not too bad and is actually really enjoyable. With the Wild West world, the open world is very understandably empty. There is not a whole lot going on in the world. There is some small towns scattered here and there, but overall, a lot of it's just kind of open desert. And this is nice because it fills the aesthetic of the Western world. But for some gamers, this emptiness may be really lame and just leave a lot of open nothingness. And that is understandably really boring. But from an aesthetic point, it's really neat. It's just nice open country, just how the West was. And so for me, I really enjoyed it, but someone else might find it really dull and boring. Outside of the main story missions, there was a bunch of fun side activities you could take part of, like gambling, or Five Finger Fillet, or horse races, things like that. Just some side activities to kind of distract you from the main storyline, and those were really enjoyable, and I'd recommend checking them out. But in addition to those, there was also the Strangers missions, and the Strangers missions are really enjoyable. My personal favorite being I Know You, because it kind of delved into John's past and his morality, things like that. So I'd recommend absolutely checking out that side quest, and it's absolutely worth your time. And all these just the fun additional characters and the little activities it had you do for these side quests were really enjoyable. So I'd recommend checking out all the Strangers quests. They're really fun, really enjoyable, and just elevate meet you some new characters and elevate the world. It was all really neat, and I liked how the distractions were from the main story. It just gave you more to do. And how does the game look? Well, 10 years later, I can't say it's the best looking game ever. This game has definitely aged quite a bit and things look kind of blocky, but overall the character models, they look pretty good. The character models are very, very detailed, and the world itself are very, very detailed. Everything's just very delicate, and but yet again, graphically, it's very kind of blocky and choppy sometimes, which is unfortunate because sometimes it is an eyesore. But overall, it wasn't too bad. Just not my favorite, and definitely hasn't aged very well. Technically, this game is aloof with problems. There are problems left and right, and you're gonna see a lot of them in your time. My biggest thing is I had a lot of weird interactions with character models. Like sometimes they would just randomly clip through things, or I had one time where this lady was sitting on this bench, but she was backwards, and so like her legs were going into a building. And I also had one time when during a cutscene, all of a sudden a character model just like popped up and then just like started continuously running into a wall. And I also had another time when a character model from a former mission was all of a sudden just standing in the background of a mission that they were in. And so it was just really, really weird things like that. And so yes, this game is full of problems. Did they ruin the game? No. But did they ruin the presentation? Absolutely. There's a lot of times when you're really invested in something, but all of a sudden something really weird and wacky happens in the background with some character models, which was unfortunate, but was easily overlooked because just the overall experience was so enjoyable that it was hard to like get too fussed up about something so small. One last thing I gotta give this game major props for is the soundtrack. The soundtrack in this game is phenomenal. It is a very Western sounding soundtrack. And I'd recommend checking it out. It is a very good soundtrack, and actually it elevated a lot of the parts of the story. Specifically, one section, I'm not going to spoil it because it may be a spoiler thing, but the song that was playing in the background at that time was just really awesome. It made it a really memorable moment. In the end, Red Dead Redemption is one of my favorite games of all time. The story it tells is just so amazing, and the story of John Marston is just one of my favorites of all time. And I want everyone to experience this game because it is just such an amazing story and such an amazing venture. And this is all elevated by the gameplay, which is really enjoyable and lots of fun and just gets a great Western feel. While there is a lot of technical problems and the game hasn't aged all too well, there are a few things that can ruin the presentation, but as an overall experience, it is so much fun, and I would absolutely recommend checking out Red Dead Redemption. So that's my review for Red Dead Redemption. I hope you enjoyed this game as much as I do, and I hope you feel so strongly about John and Dutch Van Lien as I do. I get really excited because they are so great, and I just love this game so much. So hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did, and hopefully I gave you some insight. If you've never played this game before, hopefully I can get you to go out and get it and play it. So as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notified every time I post a new video, and just stay up to date with everything. So thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm on Twitch, so if you want to hit me out, check me out on Twitch. I'll put the link down in the description, probably, most likely. But anyways, good stuff. So thank you as always for watching, and we'll catch you next time on A Game for Your Thoughts. I'll most likely be doing Red Dead Redemption 2 or Pokemon Moon. I can't decide. I have two like big games. Wait, Mario Galaxy. That's what I'm doing next. Okay, Mario Galaxy. So keep an eye out for Mario Galaxy coming later this week or the beginning of next week, one of the two. But either way, good stuff. So thank you as always for watching. We'll catch you next time.